All right, good evening and welcome to the show, everyone. The latest episode of Neck Up Live. My name is Jeff Ramey with my co-host Eugene Collins, and our guest today is DeWayne Burroughs, the head women's basketball coach at Shawnee State University. So, welcome to the show, DeWayne.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
DeWayne, I have to ask. I read where you're a college baseball player at Coppin State, and now you are a successful college basketball coach. How did that happen? Go from baseball to basketball?
Well, I have a younger sister who's about 10 years younger than I am, and my mom and dad started an AAU program for a lot of the kids in the area. A lot for some inner city black kids or whoever wanted to play, basically. But kids were spread out on teams all over the state, and we figured we could get those kids closer to home. And that's what we ended up doing. So we got started with that, and there's a great group of girls, and we kept them from 10 years old till they went to college. And I can say every last one of them went to college on an academic or athletic scholarship. So that was huge for us. And that was the beginning there. And my good friend of my dad's was the women's basketball coach at Coppin State University. So I was hanging out with him. He was mentoring me through college and all that good stuff, Doug Robinson. And I started working with the women's basketball program there. I was a freshman at the time, so I was 18, young and dumb, didn't have a clue what was going on. And he helped guide me through it and working with him and the women's basketball team there and work with my mom and dad and starting the AAU program that we had there. It was just, I guess coaching was meant for me to be. My last year of college at Coppin, I was working with the baseball team. So I was coaching with the baseball team, and we would go to games where opposing teams' head coaches thought I was actually the head coach. So, it was a good start, and it was a good follow up to where I am today. And it's just been a pleasure coaching young adults.
Mm-hmm. So I always like to ask, I always like to hear people's backstory. You mentioned your mom and dad. So as a kid, who were some of the people who were the most influential in your career as a coach?
I'd have to say those two, my mom and dad, who still yell at me every night after games now. You should have did this. You should have taken this kid out. She's not playing hard enough. So that hasn't changed. Their influence is huge in what I do every single day. And I wouldn't be where I am today without them. So, look at my mom and dad. Doug Robinson was great because he was already coaching on the college level. And it's funny because I ended up coaching with his son at Bowie State University. When he got the head coaching job, he brought me on which was my first college coaching job as an assistant. Mm-hmm. So it came full circle. So they're still good friends of mine. I speak to them all the time, and he mentors me as well. But I have to say my mom and dad they were mentoring me then when I played, and they're still doing the exact same thing to this day.
Mm-hmm. DeWayne, talk a little bit, of course, I got a chance to meet you and spend a lot of time with you, once you got hired at the university. But talk a little bit about your background as a law enforcement in the Baltimore, Maryland area.
In Baltimore County, I was a Baltimore County police officer for 20 years. Great experience. I was a school resource officer. I was actually one of the first school resource officers in the state of Maryland at Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County. That prepared me just as much as coaching did for my stint here at Shawnee and before this as well. I got to know the kids. I got to know what they like, what they don't like. I got to know how the young kids know how they operate. Uh-huh. So it was huge. And in fact, when I got to Baltimore County, when I got to Woodlawn High School as a police officer, my captain said, I need you to go up there and they were having 4, 5, 6 fights a day where half the police department in that area would have to go up there and respond. Mm-hmm. He said, I want you to go up there and lock everybody up. If they fight, we put them in the paddy wagon, we take them back to the station, we charge them. I said, if that's what you want me to do, then I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. That job's not for me. I said, I would like to go up there, mentor the kids, speak to the kids, see where the issues lie, where the issues are coming from. And I tell people all the time, my first week there, we went from having 4 or 5 fights a day to maybe having 2 or 3 a week. Mm-hmm. And then after the first month and a half, it got to a point where other police officers weren't coming up there to assist me at all because I found out who the players were.
Right.
And we had a very, very good conversation. I respected them. They respected me. And the mere fact that they knew that I was there to do a job, they respected that. And I told them, if you're going to have issues, you need to come have a conversation with me first, or we're gonna have some real problems. And I said what my captain want is for me to come here and lock everybody up who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's to get education. And I meant it. I said, if you want that, then that's going to happen. Believe it or not, they listen. They like the guidance. They like to have someone who they could come and talk to that was in uniform. Because a lot of kids had never had a male figure, and a black male figure is one. And every time they had a confrontation with the police department is always something negative. So here's somebody who was being positive and helping support them. And it went beyond the thing of you're doing something criminal, I need to do this and all that. It became a situation where my wife had to tell me to stop taking money to school. I spent more time buying kids lunch because they didn't know where their next meal was going to come from. So I would have lunch people pack them up a lunch so they could take it home from them and their brother and sister to have dinner. So I spent more money doing that and mentoring kids than I actually did as a police officer, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's great. That's great.
DeWayne, that reminds, there's a saying that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. So how has that experience helped you as a basketball coach?
Well, it keeps me in tune with the kids. You know, when we in practice, now the new thing is you got to have your radio playing. You got to have your music on. So I make sure that we have the music on, and I'm the DJ, so I get to control the music. That way we don't have any of the cussing and all the crazy stuff that's going on. But I still listen to their music with them. I understand, the people don't understand, the music world dictates a lot of what our kids do. And I learned that as a police officer, a lot of trainings that I had was, you know, getting in, and a lot of gang trainings, you're getting in, you listen to the music. You need to know what they're doing. You need to know what they're listening to, because that's going to dictate how they're going to respond to different situations. And so we're in practice, and I play their music. I'll let them listen to it. What they always ask me, what do you know about that? What do you know about this? Well, I'm in tune with what you're doing. That's part of my job. So yeah, it's a process. And being a police officer, especially being assigned as a school resource officer, that helped me tremendously. It helped me tremendously coaching on a high school level. And once I got on the college level, a lot of people understood, a lot of my players understood, hey, he may be older, but he still understands what we're going through on a day-to-day basis. And as you guys know, coaching is not about X and O's 90% of the time.
Right.
It's about making sure your kid's mental health is where it should be.
Right.
You know, so kids have to understand, and people have to understand that coaches, you see us on the basketball court for 40 minutes, but we do a lot more in the other 24 hours a day than what you see us doing just 40 minutes a day. We spend more time with these kids than they do with their families. So people don't understand that we understand when they come in the gym and they're not smiling. They come in the gym and they having a bad day. So yeah, you see us yelling at them or getting them on the court, but you don't see all the behind the scenes stuff that we have to do to get them prepared for that. And each and every day, no matter how my day is going, I have to come in the gym and be on my P's and Q's. I have to smile. If I'm not smiling, trust me, they're paying attention. Oh, something's going on with him today. And I don't ever want my team to see that. I always want my team to see me in a positive light. They would never know if I could be having the worst day of my life. They would know it. Because as that coach, you have to show that you are technically that tough guy, that tough woman that can handle anything. And you have to come in there smiling. If you come in there disappointed and upset about something, trust me, it's going to affect your practice in your games.
Right. Well, DeWayne, you have certainly taken Shawnee State's basketball, the bull by the horn, so to speak. I followed your program since the start, and of course, I think you ended up winning 28 games this year, and national tournament. But the thing I really respect from you, being a former a coach at Shawnee, is your ability to recruit on a national level is something that a lot of people have not really paid much attention to, but I've paid a lot of attention to it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I love recruiting. I love recruiting, and I love getting out on the road. I love if I got to fly somewhere, I'll fly in and, go see a kid play. I think it's about selling your product.
Right.
And I try to sell our product the best way that I possibly can, and be 100% honest with the young ladies that I come in contact with. So many coaches, so many young ladies don't trust a lot of their coaches. I can say that every kid that we've brought in here, I've been 100% honest with, and I don't guarantee playing time. Your playing time is determined by you. So if you think you can come in here and take somebody's position, then more power to you. You got to put in the work and get it done. And we've been in a situation where that has happened. And then you have the kids who were here the year prior who were disappointed that they didn't get the playing time that they believe that they got the year before, which is totally understandable. I totally understand. I totally respect that. But like I try to get my kids to understand, this is a business.
Yes.
This is a business. And I've taken over a program here that has nothing but success. Yeah. You know, Robin's done well here. Jeff Nichols done well here. So I had to get this school back, this team back into a position where we were successful night in and night out. It hasn't been easy. Yeah. It hasn't been easy getting kids here. It hasn't been easy with returners. You know, in this day and age, you have to recruit your returning players more than you got to recruit the kids that you're trying to bring in. Absolutely. So it's a tough business to be in. I don't care where you are, but one thing I can say about Shawnee State is once I get you here on campus and you see the campus, you see the apartments, the way that the kids live, it's hard for you to turn it down. It's going to take someone that's at a higher level to turn you down than somebody that's on the same level where we are. Right. You know, I like to, if I feel confident enough to bring you on campus, and I feel confident enough that you're going to come here and you're going to spend your next couple of years here playing for Shawnee State. So that's part of my that's one thing about the recruiting side of it that I love. You got this day and age, you got to stay in contact with these kids. You know, once, twice a week, I reach out, hey, how things going, how your class is going, and that could be the entire conversation. But they need to see that consistency. They need to see that somebody cares. Right. You know, they need to see that somebody cares, and we've been fortunate. You know, my assistants. Keisha Monet, they've been around me for the last couple of years, and they've done a fantastic job of understanding me and understand how you have to hit the recruiting trail. We have to hit the ground running. We have to get better. Even this year, we won 28 games, but it wasn't enough. Right. You know, and I hate to sound arrogant or greedy, but we lost and didn't make it to Iowa. Right. So those are goals that we have for next year. And we met with our kids last week, and I told them we won 28 games, but we didn't get past the round of 32. So 28 games wasn't enough. If I can win 20 games and make it to the Final Four, that's even better. Right. You know, but our goal is to get up in the 30s next year. And I think if we had the kids coming back and the players that we plan on bringing in, I think that we'll be very successful. Hopefully we'll be very successful again.
Yeah. Coach, it's a transition a little bit to the mental side of the game. Personally, I think our young athletes today are facing some with the social media and just transfer portal and NIL, a lot more stressors than probably what we had when we played. What kind of resources do you guys have in place to help your athletes deal with the mental side of the game?
One of the best things that we did was when I talked to Gene about you guys' book, my kids love it. Mm-hmm. My kids love it. And it's interesting, we'll be in practice, and I know they're reading it because we'll be in practice and somebody will bring up a quote that's out of the book. Mm-hmm. I'm like, cool. So we're headed in the right direction. Mm-hmm. It's tough to get somebody on campus each and every day to understand. We have people who deal with the mental health side across campus, on the other side of campus, but dealing with athletes is different. Mm-hmm. It's totally different. And college athletes' life is different than the average student. I'll give you a good example. My kids, we get up in the morning, we have practice, say from 10 to 12. They got to be here at 9 to be ready to go by 9:45 because practice starts at 10. They got weights from 12 to 1. Then they got to go take a shower and either go to class or go to study hall. And after study hall, they got to come back and put up some shots or watch film. So their days is totally different than the average student. And with basketball, shoot, we go from the third week of September until now. You know, the NAIA National Championship just ended last week. So there's a lot to it that a lot of people outsiders don't see. So one of the things we try to do, like I said, we go through the book. We went through the book. They bring up quotes out of the book all the time. We do aerobics. I try to get them out of the gym as much as possible. We do aerobics. We do yoga. Mm-hmm. All that type of stuff. Anything that's something to get them out of that gym, anything out of the norm, we will try and do it. We work. It's interesting because people don't understand. We go work the Bengals games. Mm-hmm. And it's a day that they get to hang out with each other, but they're totally away from basketball. It has nothing to do with basketball. So it's really giving their brain a rest, even though they handed out, we work in the concession stand, they handing out food and stuff like that. But it gives them something different to do as a team. We work the concession stand at Portsmouth High School. All those things help us and help with the mental side of it. It's not about basketball 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. It's about making sure for me and my staff, it's about making sure our team have a great college experience. Mm-hmm. I can say this year we went to an event in Tennessee to show, and it's in Nashville, and we spent the day down in our Pigeon Forge. We went down a day early, stayed in Pigeon Forge, didn't touch a basketball, went and hung out. They went roller coaster riding through the mountains, and it was a good time. It was a really good time, and it was away from the game. We started slow the following day. We had practice, started slow in our first game, but I'll take us starting slow to make sure we're in a great place mentally. It's all about the mental side of it. So it bothers me sometimes. Well, not bothers me, but what I don't like about it is some kids will try to use that as a crutch to get out. And my thing is, if you don't want to be in school, go see your coach. Have a conversation with your coach. Let your coach know where you are mentally. And what I do, and not just in somebody with a mental health issue or just in general, if there's a kid who don't want to be here at Shawnee State, I will reach out and help them find a school somewhere where they will be happy. College is the best time in your life. If I could go back, I would go back to my freshman year of college, and do that whole 4 years all over again. I just know that was my best time. So I want the next kid to have that great experience. And if it's not here at Shawnee State, if it's not at Ohio State, if it's not at Cincinnati, then that's fine. That school where it's going to be a good fit for you.
Coach, you've started a couple programs, and how important is it, and how hard is it, and how important is it to develop the culture? Can you talk a little bit? We hear a lot about developing the culture. What does that mean, and how do you develop that when you come in as a new coach?
When you come in as a new coach, it's about being honest. Mm-hmm. Monte Holland, who's on my staff now, she wasn't having a good time enjoying basketball when I got here. And I said, give me 1 year. Give me 1 year, and let's see if I can change that. And I was 100% honest with her, and she found the love of basketball again. And that's why she's still here coaching. And she played great for me. So I think coaches have to be honest. I just think if you're going to be honest, especially at this level, you have to be honest with these kids. And you got to let these kids understand, I'm going to stick it out with you as long as I possibly can. I just told someone the other day, like, are you leaving here? And I was like, do you know how long it took me to build this program and get it where it is? Why would I leave here and go somewhere and have to do it all over again? I'm too old to be starting all over again. So this is a good fit for me. This is a good fit for me. And I just think that building that culture, it has to start with honesty, honesty and loyalty. I just think that if you're going to be honest and loyal with your kids, they're going to be honest and loyal with you. Yeah, you're going to have some hiccups here and there. You definitely have some hiccups here and there. But I can say, since I've been here, 90% of my team stays. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that we're doing something correct. Yes, right. And yes, you have your frustration through the year, through the season. Kids aren't happy with their playing time. Then it's up to you to change it. You get the parents that aren't happy and so on. And my thing is, even with that, and I tell my assistants, we still have to be committed to being honest and being loyal to these kids. Yeah. And everybody's not going to like your coach's decision. Everybody's going to some people's going to disagree with what you have going on. But as long as you're being honest and loyal and you're doing your program the way I have for years, I think we're going to be very successful here. And like I said, my kids don't leave. Yeah. I may have one or two leave, and one that may be disappointed, two may be disappointed. We start off the year with 16, and we have 13 coming back. Yeah. So, and the two or the three that left didn't leave because they weren't happy.
Yeah.
So they weren't happy with the coaching staff, I should say anyway. So I just think that we have to understand that honesty is going to carry you through the college basketball, especially now with the landscape, with this transfer portal. And I understand, trust me, I do understand why so many, the Division I big time coaches at Virginia and so on, why they leave. It's tough to deal with. I understand why St. Francis up in Pennsylvania going from D1 to D3.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, it is tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I've had kids come in my office just last summer and say, "Hey, how much money can I get?" None here, because I don't have the money to give you. Yeah. So unless we can go find somebody that's going to give you an NIL, then yeah, we may be able to get you some money that way. But as far as you and your family coming and asking me for money, we don't have it.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have it, so I'm not going to put myself and I'm not going to put Shawnee State in a position to say, okay, I'm going to give you $100 a week when I know we can't do that. And that's not something that, we're looking to do right now. Mm-hmm. So again, that comes back to being honest with these kids. And I'm not going to trade in my honesty to get a kid for basketball. There are too many kids out here who want to play and who want to go hard for you without having that headache.
Mm-hmm. DeWayne, do you see, not necessarily at the NAI level, but talking to some other coaches that I know at the Division I levels, some of the pressure that these kids and their parents don't realize that comes with NIL is, when you're saying, hey, I'll come, but I need 200,000 or 300,000 or some of these crazy numbers that are out there, the pressure that comes with it. Because when you get that money, then they don't want to hear that you're no longer an amateur. They're going to treat you like you're a professional athlete, and the pressure to perform becomes 100-fold now. And a lot of these kids and parents and people are not ready. And so you're starting to see a lot of kids checking out with mental health and having a lot of problems now because between the media and the newspaper, the pressure to perform, because we gave you that money and now you got to perform.
It's a business.
Yeah.
It's always been a business, but now you put money on top of it. Oh, you got to produce.
Yeah.
Like I tell my kids, this is a business because you got to come in here and perform in order for me to keep my lights on at home.
Right.
So in order for me to put food on the table, you have to perform. And now when you add in money, you really got to step up to the plate. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I wish a lot of people read up a little bit more on those NILs, because I spoke to an attorney that represents somebody the other day with NIL, and the package that they were trying to put together for this female athlete was like, we're not doing that. It was all for the company and not for the player. Mm-hmm. And there were certain things like she wanted airline tickets and she wanted a certain amount of tickets for away games for her family. Yeah. And the company that was trying to represent was like, we can do that, but you're going to pay for 2 of these airline tickets. And but it was in small print and they really didn't know it. Yeah. And that's why when you get involved in this NIL stuff, you better have yourself a good attorney who understands what's going on. Mm-hmm. But it's totally a business. And if the kids aren't producing at the Division I level and the coach isn't producing, then it's time then somebody's got to go.
Right.
And more than likely, the kid's going to transfer and that coach is going to be out of a job.
Yeah.
Coach is going to be out of a job. So they have to produce. It was a business without the NIL, and now it's really a business. Now, like you said, they treat them, you're technically a professional athlete because you're getting paid.
Yeah. Coach, just out of curiosity, the teams in your conference, are you aware of any schools giving NIL money at that level?
I'm not. I can tell you that I just found out this week that there was a kid in our conference that's pretty good, who just went D1 based on the fact that that's what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just, from what I'm told, that's what they're looking for. Now, how true that is, I don't know. But you leave an NAI and you putting up pretty good numbers. Mm-hmm. Why else would you be trying to go D1? Yeah. If we didn't have the NIL, and I always ask people, if we didn't have the NIL, would that kid still be making that exact same decision? No. They'd be happy and content where they are. There's a reason why you were at that school. Yeah. It's getting tough. Listen to some of these these lower D1 coaches, and it's like the guy coach from Norfolk State men said, it's like we're like an expanded JUCO.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're the low D1, you're an expanded JUCO, because now the high up, the mid to high major D1s are coming down and picking your best kid. I want this one, I want that one, and they going on taking that kid and winning. Where you're starting all over, we're rebuilding with kids again. That's why I said it's important. Like here, we have 12 and 13 kids coming back.
Right.
So those kids understand what we expect, you know, in order to win basketball games. If you got to keep starting all over and over again, then it's tough to get your culture back to where you want it to be. So I just think, again, I think we do a really good job here of being honest, being loyal, being committed. We're committed. You know, our kids is not like, we have a kid from New York. I'll tell you, Miyoshi Ellis, she came in, and she didn't understand why I was so hard on her. And her mom was like, you need to figure it out. It's not him. You need to figure it out. And not that she was doing anything wrong. It's just that we're sticklers on class. You better be in class. That's not an option. And we visit your class. It's nothing for me to walk in your classroom, pop my head in, speak to the teacher, and keep it moving to make sure you're in class. And she had missed a couple classes and wasn't going to study hall and stuff like that. So now she does study hall outside my office. And I was like, hey, you can go back and do study hall with everyone else. She's like, no, coach, I like it over here. I like the space that I get over here. I like the attention that I'm getting, you know, outside. Because I walk out of my office. What are you working on? Who are you on the phone with? I'm talking to my mom. Tell your mom I said hello. You know, stuff like that. So she likes that attention. And we just met with her the other day. She went leaps and bounds from where she was when she came as a JUCO transfer. Yeah. And you could, and Jean saw us play a couple of times. You could see it on the court. She just went from struggling mentally and physically and not expecting, because I had high expectations for her. And she understood. After a while, she finally understood he is on my side and he is what was best for me. So let me stick it out and do what I need to do. And actually, she still comes in here every day for study hall. Even though I tell you, you can go back. She had a 3.0 or something last semester. And I said, you're doing fine. You can go back and do study hall with everybody else. She's like, I want to be in here. I know I can get my work done in here. Over there, I'm going to be talking and joking, and I know I'm not going to get my work done. That tells me she's mature.
Well, and you know what, DeWayne, that's a tribute to you. You know, I was telling Jeff off the air, you know, he was talking about a story that a lot of people don't know, but you know, back in January, you brought in a potential recruit, a girl from Nigeria who came to campus to visit. I just fortunate to have dinner with you guys that night after the game.
Yeah.
She was at the Holiday Inn, had an accident, was in a pool, almost drowned in the pool. You know, you get the call that, hey, this girl's at Southern Ohio Medical Center. You know, the doctors tell you, hey, man, it's 80% chance this girl's not going to live. They life flight her to Columbus. Yeah. You know, you get in the car, you go to Columbus, you stay with the girl. The unique situation was the girl was from Nigeria, had no family. Did you, the boyfriend, you're making calls to Nigeria, to her family. You know, the girl eventually was able to overcome it and survive and live. But everybody in the hospital is thinking you're her dad, and they find out you're just the coach. Yeah. I mean, man, we talked about that story. You told me that story yesterday when we were eating lunch, and I've thought about that since we've had that story. So for somebody who's saying, man, who is DeWayne Burroughs? Man, I would want you to coach my daughter every day after hearing that story. I mean, it's amazing story.
It was absolutely amazing. Caught me totally off guard. It caught everybody off guard. And like you said, there's two young ladies from Portsmouth High School who just happened to be in the pool. Mm-hmm. I think they had a party or something there for their little brother or sister early in the day, and they stuck around. The older girl stuck around, and they saw what happened. Neither one of them, they both want to get into the nursing field, but neither one of them, this is amazing, neither one of them know CPR.
Uh-huh.
But they managed to help get the young lady out of the pool. And when they got her with the help of her boyfriend, they got her out of the pool. They performed CPR till the medics could get there. And I'm sure those first couple minutes that they did that CPR on her helped save that girl's life. Now, somebody could tell me something totally different, right? But I'm believing That was the two of them,
Absolutely.
and you're right, Gene. It was touch and go for a long time. And when that doctor told me she's probably 80% chance that she's not going to make on cheese. How does this happen?
Right.
And you don't question it. You keep moving.
Yeah.
They flew her up to Columbus, and I jumped in my car, went home and grabbed some clothes. I didn't know when I was coming back.
Yeah.
I stayed up there with her, and the first night I got there probably like 6 o'clock in the morning. I stayed there all day. My sisters, two of them came up, and they were like, "Well, you can go home and we'll start." Like, no, you guys go back and run practice. I'll be here tomorrow, all day tomorrow. Then I'll come into practice tomorrow night. And I stayed at the Hampton Inn up there, and it was, again, the next day the exact same thing. And she wasn't moving. They had the tubes down, all that good stuff. I'm like, geez, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And she came full circle. This was a Saturday night. She was walking out of the hospital on Friday. On Friday, and it's funny that you said we talked about this yesterday, but she called me last night. Her and her boyfriend called me last night, and I said, "You guys' ears must have been ringing because we were just talking about you guys, and that she's doing well." He was telling me that he's getting on her because she's being lazy. Yeah, I said, "Well, she has a right to be lazy for a little while."
Right.
But he wants her to get back. She wants to get back at it. She wants to play still. So they're working on trying to figure that out. She's been released from all her doctors. They're back to 100% healthy young lady.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. But like you said, the people at the hospital thought I was her dad. And like I told you, I didn't feel comfortable until we could get her dad on the phone.
Right.
Because, they're in Nigeria and we're here. They 6 or 7 hours ahead of us. Right. But the village that they lived in didn't have service. So he could only call or see her text messages when he was at work.
Wow.
So, and when he's at work, at lunch, on his lunch hour, it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning here. So fortunately, he was able to call a hospital. The nurses hooked him up and talk to the boyfriend, and eventually, the young lady, when she was okay to start talking. But it was definitely an eye-opening situation for me, for our program, for our girls. And it's interesting. Things happen, and you don't understand why. But I asked my kids, when things finally slowed down a little bit, because all this is during season, we had games going on. But I asked my kids, how many of you guys know CPR?
Right.
And 2 kids raised their hand. So one of the things, me and my sisters are going to the Final Four. That's their reward. We're going to the Final Four next week. But when we come back, my assistants and my team, we're going through CPR training here at Shawnee. And if I had to pay for it out of my pocket, I don't care. That's something that they need to know. Because again, this is one situation where fortunately these 2 kids didn't know it, but they knew enough to help save a young lady's life. And I can be honest with you, the people at SOMC, man, did they do a fabulous job.
Yeah.
Man, they do a fabulous job. Making sure, because me and my assistants and the boyfriend, we were there, and he jumped in the pool, and he was still over there with wet clothes on, so they gave him a change of clothes and put stuff on, and I went home and gave him some of my clothes so he had stuff to wear while he was here. It was just, everybody came in perfect timing. These 2 young ladies, the medics, SOMC, the guy who was flying, the 2 guys that was flying up there, they were extremely nice. And he said, Coach, he said, I know it looks bad. He said, but trust me, we're going to get in there and they're going to take care of it. And he was 100% right. And people at Columbus, again, like you said, they thought I was the dad. They thought I was the dad, but they were like, you're not the dad. I said, no, I am the actually women's basketball coach at Shawnee State. They was like, but you're here every single day. I said, that's just me. I said, I have to be here until this young lady walks up out of here. Yeah. And sure enough, we left to, I don't even know who we played that Saturday, but we had to leave Friday. And when we were leaving, she was leaving the hospital as well. So it worked out perfectly.
And, that's the thing that I can tell you as not only, a coach, but a former player, that a parent feels so good to know when their kid is miles and miles away that there's a coach that's going to take care of them, because there's things going to happen outside the field or whatever, that they need to know that in that little town that they're at, they can trust somebody. And I'm telling you that to me, that says a whole lot about you not as a coach, but as a person. I'm telling you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. That's a great story, and there's no doubt in my mind that those two young girls from Portsmouth High School probably saved that girl's life.
Yeah, we did, and just to top, I brought them on campus before one of our games. Actually, senior night. It was senior night, and we went over to Larry Moore, and we got plaques made up and gave them some nice plaques, something that they can, a memento that they can always put up on their walls, and even when they get a job, they can put it in their office. And gave them some flowers. So it was good to see the police department. A lot of guys from the police department was here as well. So it was a nice experience. Well, the end of it was a nice experience.
Yeah.
Coach, we've covered a lot of good stuff. Before we get off here, is there anything that we haven't discussed that maybe you think that you wanted to discuss, or you think that's important to hear for our young athletes out there?
I just think when they're searching for a school, and like I said, whether that's here at Shawnee State or if it's at Ohio State or Marshall or wherever, you find a school that's a good fit for you. And a lot of kids are finding schools that's good fit for the AAU coaches or their high school coaches. You have to find a school that's a good fit for you, where you feel comfortable, where you feel like, okay, I can get along with this coach for the next 4 years, because it's your college life, and you don't want to go from school to school to school. So you have to find a home away from home, and that's the atmosphere that we try to build here. I just think that having the support that a lot of kids don't understand, having the support of a coaching staff that's going to support you, having the support of the community that's going to support you. And I can say, since I've been here, I think I met Gene my first week here, second week here, I was in the gym. And I couldn't have found a better person to have on my side. Gene's been sticking by my side since day one. He told me, don't go here, don't go there. And guess what? Coach, don't go there, don't do whatever he tell me to do. That's what I'm going to follow through with. He's been a great mentor to me since I've been here. We talked about mentors earlier. He's been a great mentor to me since I've been here. I got a question, I need some help with something, I'll reach out to Gene, and it's resolved. Even if it has something to do with some young lady on my team, so it's great having that support system. Even here at Shawnee, our president, Eric Braun, and our athletic director, Gerald Cadogan, they've been doing a fantastic job in supporting women's basketball as much as I could ask them to support. And Gerald he walks past my office every day, going to his office. You need anything, everything okay? I'm good. But he know that if I'm coming to him, then it's a serious situation that we need to get resolved, because he does a great job of trusting me with this program. So that's huge to have that type of support. If one of my kids needs something and I can't help it, Gerald knows a lot of people in the community, and he steps up. So you have to have that support system when you're dealing with when a young college athlete is looking for a school to attend. Everyone I bring on campus, if Gerald is available, I make sure he meets with them. And we walk right up in his office. He's like, Brent, tell him to come on in. So we walk right up in his office. So having that support system, a lot of ADs, kids don't ever get to see. A lot, you go to some schools, people don't even know who the AD is. But I can say here, Gerald's always out and about. So again, he is another avenue of support that we have. We have people across campus here. If I make a phone call, they're taking care of it right away. It's interesting. You talk about, I got a phone call yesterday, an email at 1:00, about 1:30. Coach, your kid was supposed to be here for an advising meeting, and she's not here. It's me. Just about the phone call, email about 1:45. Actually, I was on my way to meet Gene. I sat down with Gene. I called the young lady. Where are you? Where are you supposed to be? You need to go. And we got there. She was calling me from the woman's office. So that's huge, because Monday is the time that they have to put their classes in. If their classes aren't in, then we can't may not be able to practice during the time that we need to practice, because you don't have the correct classes in. So that phone call, that email made a huge difference. So now you can go pick your classes in and not interfere with our practice time. So that's one of the huge positives I like about Shawnee is it's a close-knit family here. I can make a phone call, I can get an email, and get something done right away. And I think that's some of the choices that kids need to make sure that they're in a good mental space when they go to college. you can't perform at 100% like I want you to perform if there's some outlying issues going on outside of basketball. You know, dealing with a class, I can get you help with class. Dealing with a boyfriend, you may need to leave him alone for right now. You know, so we have to make sure that our kids, and I said our young adults, are in a good place mentally. This is a different day and age from when we played, like you said earlier. With me, my dad was like, my mom was like, you need to figure it out. You need to figure it out. Fortunately, I've never been in a situation where I would have to go to my mom and dad and say, well, I'm not playing. What do I need to do? Because I always worked hard. And that came from my dad pushing me outside of practice to be the best player in whatever sport I played that I could be. So I just think that these young adults now need to understand the mental health side of this is sometimes you have to push yourself. And sometimes when your coach pushing you, maybe it's because that coach sees something in you that you don't see within yourself.
Right.
And I had to do that with Gerard Steele, probably Gerard Steele, kid out of Cincinnati that I just absolutely love. I think she's going to be something special. She's getting better and better. But I said, I get on you sometimes because you can be lazy or you can be too hard on yourself. I said, but I'm going to keep pushing you until I can't push you anymore. And I know your mom's going to support me because we want what's best for you. And sometimes you shut down on yourself when I'm still pushing you to get better.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never had an issue with Gerard. She's a fantastic young lady. And she understands the message that I'm trying to give her. So I just think it's good for young athletes to find coaches that understand their path and what it's going to take them to get where they need to be.
Well, Gene, I'm gonna say a few words. I'm gonna let you close it out.
Okay.
But as coach, as you were talking, I just kind of making some notes, and some things that I'm taking from this interview is what describes you, your coaching staff, and your program is committed, honesty, loyalty, integrity, and I think family oriented. You said 90% of your players have stayed, which is in this day and age is unbelievable.
Yes.
And I think they stay because they know you care and you are into the development of the human being, not just the basketball player. Exactly. And that's going to last, well beyond the game. So I just want to say thank you for the time you've given us this evening. We need more coaches like you in the profession in all sports. Yeah. And but that's just some of the things I took away from this. And I think more programs need to have, the commitment, the honesty, loyalty, integrity, and try to develop these kids as human beings and not just. Yep. I think some programs view them as throwaway TVs,
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for all of that. And one of the things before we go on with Gene, one of the things that I tell my kids is don't let the game use you. You use the game.
Yeah.
Because this basketball can be taken away from you today, tomorrow, the next day. But once you get your degree, and that's what you're here for, to get a degree. Once you get your degree, can't no one take that from you. So I always tell my kids, don't let the game use you. You use the game.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
I stole that from somebody. I don't know who, but I'm sure I stole it from somebody.
I think it was Eugene. I think Eugene Collins said that.
Probably.
Well, DeWayne, I think the university has really got a diamond in the rough with you in terms of brought a guy in who has some NCAA background. A lot of people don't know, but Shawnee is transitioning from NAIA to NCAA Division II here in another year. What a great person to have who's already experienced that NCAA Division II and Division I level and understand, what it's like, what it takes, what they need. I hope that the university continues to lean on you and really use you as a resource as we make this transition from NAI to Division II.
I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I played baseball in college, and you love challenges. As a baseball player, we love challenges, and this is a whole nother challenge that I'm looking forward to. I am preparing my team now and recruiting now to get players that when we go, I see some of the teams transition into Division II and they struggle from NAI to Division II. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to struggle. We're trying to go in and make some noise the first year. So that's our plan and that's our goal. But, again, it's a support. It's a support system. that you have to have. And like I said, it's great having somebody like you, like Gina, on my side. You know,
Yep.
if I need that, I'll make that phone call.
Yep.
I know I'm gonna get the honest truth from him. You know,
Absolutely.
so that's huge for me, and it's huge for my program. And because a lot of things that he talked about, and when you guys came up with, you said you're gonna do this book. I said, well, let me know what I need to do, and you knew from day one. And I was 100% in, because it's really, really needed in college athletics, especially the small book that you guys have, especially the small school situation. We don't have the money to hire a full-time sports psychologist here. But I just think, like I said, with my kids with this book, they saw it, they read it, and when you could be in the middle of practice and they talking quotes that came out of the book, you're like, man, they're really paying attention to what's going on. So, and they really see that it works.
Yeah.
They really see that it works, and they have it up in the gym, and they be making notes in the gym. I tell you, you can bring your book to practice anytime you want. And they do. They bring their books and their pens in practice, and they'll stop. We may be doing something, and they'll make a note of something. And I don't bother them. I don't judge them. I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad they see it as a resource, and it has been a tremendous help for what we've gone through this season. And Gene knows we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot, and it's just been a great support for our program as a whole.
All righty.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you guys as well. I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Take care.
All right. Take care.